I was told one rule before taking the job: never go into the back room. No explanation, no warning. Just that rule. I was 22, broke, and desperate, so I agreed anyway. The house was far outside town, surrounded by trees so thick they blocked out most of the sky. By the time I parked, my phone had already lost signal. The driveway was long and gravelly, and every step I took felt louder than it should have. The house itself was old, 2 stories tall, with faded paint and a porch that sagged slightly in the middle. The windows were dark, even though the sun was still setting, and I remember thinking the place looked abandoned. The owner, an older man named Harold, answered the door almost immediately. He was thin, pale, and spoke softly, like he didn't want to wake someone. He showed me around quickly: living room, kitchen, bathroom, and the guest bedroom upstairs. There were no decorations, no photos, and no signs anyone actually lived there. No TV, no radio, no computer, just furniture and silence. When we reached the bottom of the stairs, Harold stopped walking. He didn't look at me when he spoke. "The back room downstairs stays locked," he said. "If you hear anything from there, you ignore it." He said it like he was repeating something memorized. I asked what was in the room. He smiled slightly and said, "Nothing you need to worry about." Then he grabbed his coat and left just before sunset. The sound of his car disappearing down the driveway felt final, like I'd been sealed inside the house with something I didn't understand. As it got darker, the house felt different, heavier. Every sound echoed: my breathing, my footsteps, even the fabric of my clothes shifting. The floorboards creaked no matter where I walked. It felt impossible to move without announcing my location to the entire house. Around 10 p.m., I locked the doors, checked the windows, and went upstairs. I laid down fully dressed on the stiff guest bed. The ceiling above me had faint water stains that looked like faces if I stared too long. I tried to sleep, but the silence felt too deliberate. I don't know how much time passed before I heard footsteps. Not outside, inside the house. They were slow and heavy, moving beneath my room. Each step caused a soft creak, evenly spaced. Then they stopped, directly below me. I held my breath and listened. Nothing happened for several seconds. Then I heard a door open downstairs. The sound was unmistakable. I checked my phone. It was 12:17 a.m. I told myself it was the house settling, but my body didn't believe it. My heart was already racing. The footsteps started again, pacing back and forth, not wandering, waiting. I stayed frozen in bed for nearly half an hour before curiosity finally overpowered fear. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and slowly went downstairs, stepping carefully to avoid making noise. The door to the back room was open. I hadn't opened it. I hadn't even touched it. I smelled it before I reached the doorway, a thick, sour odor that burned the back of my throat. I stood there for a long moment, telling myself not to look. When I shined my light inside, I saw 3 recliners lined up against the wall, all facing the same direction. Sitting in them were 3 bodies. They were dressed, propped up, and positioned like someone had carefully arranged them. One of the heads was tilted, mouth slightly open. My hands started shaking as I backed away. That's when I heard breathing behind me. Slow, shallow, almost excited. A voice whispered my name, then said, "I told you not to look yet." I turned and saw Harold standing at the bottom of the stairs, holding something heavy. He was smiling, not angry, not surprised, just pleased. I ran. I don't remember unlocking the door or grabbing my keys. I only remember the sound of his footsteps behind me, never speeding up, never falling behind, like he already knew how it would end. I drove straight to the police station. They investigated the house the next morning. They told me it had been abandoned for years. Harold had been dead for over a year. The bodies were missing persons from different counties. When officers arrived, the backroom door was locked from the outside. But what no one can explain is this. The police report says only 2 bodies were found, and I still remember hearing someone breathing right behind me that night. I didn't realize someone was living in my house. Not at first. I only noticed something was wrong with the space under our stairs. It was sealed with a thin plywood panel. No handle, no hinges. Just wedged into the wall. Behind it were boxes no one had touched in years. When I was 20, I noticed the panel wasn't sitting flush anymore. It was barely noticeable. Just a thin shadow on the carpet where there shouldn't have been one. I pushed the panel back with my foot. It slid into place too easily. That bothered me, but I ignored it. Old house. Old wood. That night, I went to bed thinking nothing of it. A few nights later, I woke up suddenly. No noise, no dream. Just the feeling that someone else was awake while I slept. I stayed still, staring at the ceiling, listening. That's when I heard breathing. Slow. Controlled. Close enough that I could hear it pause between breaths. I held my breath, terrified that if I moved, it would know I was awake. After a few seconds, the breathing stopped. I convinced myself it had been my imagination. I rolled onto my side. Then I heard something drag softly across the floor. The sound came from the hallway. I opened my bedroom door and turned on the light. The panel under the stairs was open, not fallen, removed. It leaned neatly against the wall, like someone had taken care not to scratch it. I stood there far too long, waiting for movement, waiting for proof I was wrong. Nothing moved. I forced the panel back into place and shoved boxes behind it until my arms hurt. Then I checked every lock in the house. Twice. That night I dreamed someone was standing over my bed, breathing quietly so I wouldn't wake up. When I woke, my bedroom door was open. I knew I had closed it before going to sleep. I started paying attention after that. The panel would shift slightly during the day. Objects under the stairs seemed rearranged, boxes stacked higher, space cleared in the center. I told myself it was my imagination. I didn't want another explanation. One afternoon, I came home early and noticed the house smelled different. Stale. Like sweat trapped in fabric. The panel was perfectly flush that day, tighter than it had ever been. I pressed my ear against it and listened. I heard nothing. That almost scared me more. The next night, I heard scratching. Not frantic, not desperate. Slow, patient. Like fingernails being dragged gently across wood, testing it. I sat on my bed holding my phone, shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. I didn't call anyone. I listened until it stopped. At 3:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. No name, just a message. You move too much when you sleep. My blood went cold. I didn't reply. Another message followed seconds later. You shouldn't lock doors when I'm inside. I screamed for my parents. My dad grabbed a bat and ripped open the panel under the stairs. The space was empty, but everything inside had been rearranged. Boxes stacked neatly, a blanket laid flat, a half-full water bottle, a phone charger plugged into an outlet none of us remembered installing. The police searched the house, the yard, the neighborhood. They found nothing. No signs of forced entry. That night, I slept on my parents' bedroom floor. I barely blinked. Around 4 a.m., I heard the front door unlock. Not forced. Unlocked. Footsteps crossed the living room slowly. Calmly. Then they stopped right outside my parents' door. I heard breathing again. Close. Familiar. After a long moment, the footsteps moved away, down the stairs, and the front door closed gently behind them. No slam. The police said he'd probably been watching us for a long time, long enough to learn routines, long enough to learn locks. They told us to be careful. They didn't catch him. My dad installed cameras and alarms. I moved out 2 weeks later. For years, nothing happened. I stopped checking dark corners. I stopped listening for breathing. I convinced myself it was over. Then my dad called me last night. His voice sounded tired. "Did you ever take anything from under the stairs?" he asked. "No," I said. "Why?" There was a long pause. "The blanket's gone," he replied. And the charger. My stomach dropped. I don't own a charger like that. I never did. That night, I slept with the lights on. At 2:46 a.m., my phone vibrated. Unknown number. I don't like when you pretend I was never there. I stared at the message until my screen dimmed. Then another message arrived. You still sleep on your right side. I moved apartments the next day, changed my number, didn't tell anyone my address. For a while, it worked. Then small things started happening. Objects moved. Doors left unlocked. The smell returned. Familiar. Stale. Close. Last night I woke up because my mattress shifted slightly. Not enough to bounce, just enough to feel like someone had sat down carefully. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I listened. The breathing was right behind my head. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I didn't look at it. I already knew what it would say. Something about how long he'd waited. Something about how quiet I was when I slept. The breathing continued, slow and controlled. I don't know how long I lay there pretending to be asleep. I don't know when he left. I only know that this morning, my phone was plugged in, charging, and I don't remember doing that. This isn't a ghost story. No one jumps out. Nothing chases me. But there was a moment where I'm almost certain the people I worked for were deciding whether or not I should be allowed to leave alive. I still replay that moment sometimes, wondering how close I really was to disappearing without anyone asking questions. I was about a year out of college when it started. Broke, stuck, and bouncing between short-term jobs that barely paid rent. Most nights I sat scrolling job boards until my eyes burned. That's how I found the listing that changed everything. It was vague. Overnight facility monitor, $28 an hour, no interview required. The shift ran from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., 7 days a week. The description promised a quiet environment with minimal interaction. That alone sounded perfect. What stopped me was a single line at the bottom. Applicants must not be fluent in Mandarin. Not preferred, not optional. Explicitly must not. The office park was in an area full of Mandarin-speaking businesses. The requirement didn't make sense. Neither did the pay. I applied anyway. They emailed me back within an hour. No phone call, no questions. Just an address and instructions to start the next night. When I arrived, the place looked dead. Empty glass buildings, long parking garages, flickering yellow lights humming overhead. A man met me at the security gate. Calm, well-dressed, too polished for a night job. He shook my hand and walked me inside without asking for ID. Inside the booth, he explained my duties. Watch cameras, log cars after midnight, call him if anyone approached. Then he paused. If someone shows you a white access card, he said, unlock the secondary elevator and look away. No explanation. The first week was quiet, empty. I almost forgot how strange the listing had been. Then the cars started coming. Always late, always black SUVs, always identical. They parked just outside clear camera view. The first man who approached the booth didn't speak. He just showed me a white card. I unlocked the elevator and turned my chair around. I heard voices behind me. Laughter, Mandarin, comfortable, casual conversations. When I turned back, they were gone. After that, it became routine. More cars, more cards. They assumed I didn't understand them. I did. I caught fragments of conversations, shipments, delays, numbers that didn't belong in a parking garage at 2 a.m. Then, the envelopes started appearing. Parking fee, they'd say. Inside was always too much cash. Hundreds. Sometimes more. I tried calling my supervisor. He didn't answer. When he finally did, he told me not to worry and hung up while I was still talking. That's when I realized I wasn't security. I was cover. A legitimate employee. A reason lights stayed on and doors opened. Someone who could say, honestly, that I was just doing my job. People started greeting me by name, slapping my shoulder, thanking me. The money made it easy to stay. The moment everything changed came just before sunrise. I was on the phone with my sister, tired and not thinking, speaking Mandarin. When I hung up, the man who hired me was standing outside the booth, watching me. He didn't look angry. That scared me more. He asked how long I'd been speaking Mandarin. I lied badly. He stared at me for a long time like he was calculating something. Then he smiled. He told me to come in an hour early the next night, said there was another opportunity for me. Before leaving, he placed a thick envelope on the counter. I didn't ask what it was for. I never came back. I didn't quit. I didn't call. I just vanished. For months, every black SUV made my heart stop. Every unfamiliar car felt intentional. Nothing ever happened, but I still think about that smile, about how easily I convinced myself money meant safety, about how close I came to saying yes. I don't know what would have happened if I showed up early. I just know that job was never meant to end with me walking away.